I wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you personally for all the wonderful messages of support and for your understanding whilst I've been recovering from surgery.
I wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you personally for all the wonderful messages of support and for your understanding whilst I've been recovering from surgery. Greater than behind palace smiles and festive appearances, a far more serious battle was quietly unfolding. Now the royal doctor has finally broken years of silence, revealing details that stunned even seasoned insiders. Catherine's private medical crisis was kept hidden to protect the children in the crown, but the strain was unbearable, sources say. William struggled to hold himself together as the truth emerged. What condition pushed the family to the brink? Why was it concealed for so long? And how will this revelation change everything moving forward? The unseen months of Catherine's private battle. In September 2024, a calm video message offered comfort to a watching nation. Catherine appeared composed, noticeably slimmer yet glowing, speaking with warmth as she confirmed she had completed chemotherapy. Her words carried relief and gratitude. And for many, they marked closure across Britain. There was a shared belief that the darkest days had passed. What few understood at the time was that the message was not an ending, but a pause carefully chosen to protect hope, while reality continued to unfold behind closed doors. The story the public was given began earlier in March 2024, when Catherine revealed her cancer diagnosis following abdominal surgery. From the start, the tone was steady and reassuring. Preventative chemotherapy, positive outlook, and a slow, thoughtful return to duty were emphasized. It reflected everything people admired about her: strength, calm, and duty before self. Yet those closest to her now describe a journey far more uncertain than the palace ever allowed to show. By late autumn, subtle changes were already reshaping daily life within the Wales household. Publicly, Catherine began appearing again at selected events, including Remembrance Sunday in the Christmas Carol service she personally championed. Each appearance was brief, elegant, and reassuring privately. However, the effort required was enormous. According to palace insiders, she would summon remarkable strength to be seen, only to retreat afterward into days of deep exhaustion. This was not ordinary fatigue, but a draining weakness that left little room for recovery. While official updates spoke of progress, the rhythm of medical care told a different story. Appointments that were meant to taper off became more frequent. Tests that were expected to confirm improvement raised new questions. By mid-December 2024, doctors began flagging symptoms that could not be ignored. Though details remained closely guarded, concern grew that the cancer might not have been fully cleared. The language used in private medical discussions shifted, and the possibility of recurrence quietly entered the room. It was during this period that the strain on Prince William became harder to conceal. Known for his discipline and control, he began pulling back from commitments without explanation. At Kensington Palace, staff noticed his patience thinning and his focus drifting. Briefings were rushed, decisions were delayed. Most of his time was spent at Adelaide Cottage in Windsor, where he refused to be far from Catherine for long. Duty, for the first time, clearly came second. One moment in the third week of December captured the seriousness of what was unfolding. A long-planned private meeting was cancelled, just hours before it was due to take place. When William briefly arrived at the palace that day, witnesses recall a man visibly shaken, eyes red, hands unsteady, gathering papers before leaving again in haste. No statement followed. No clarification offered. Those present understood instinctively that something deeply unsettling had occurred. As Christmas approached, expectations quietly shifted. Plans to join King Charles and Queen Camilla at Sandringham were reconsidered. Despite Catherine's determination to maintain tradition, the season, usually defined by routine and symbolism, instead became a period of careful monitoring and difficult conversations. Emergency protocols were reviewed. Contingency plans were revisited at the highest levels. The language inside palace walls grew cautious, deliberate, and heavy. Outwardly, the message never changed. Catherine was recovering. Progress was steady. Adjustments were normal. But the growing number of canceled engagements and vague explanations began to tell their own story. The contrast between public reassurance and private concern widened with each passing week. As 2024 came to an end, it was clear that the image of recovery presented months earlier no longer aligned with reality. At the heart of it all stood William trying to balance duty, fatherhood, and the unbearable weight of uncertainty while watching the woman he loves face a battle that no title, tradition, or privilege could shield her from. The smile remained, but behind it the fight was far from over. What secret threat lurked behind that smile? And how did Catherine's sudden January 2025 departure from Adelaide Cottage change everything? The January crisis that changed everything. The message that reached the palace that winter morning carried a weight no title or crown could soften. Before dawn in early January 2025, Catherine was taken from Adelaide Cottage under strict secrecy. Rushed by private ambulance through quiet London streets to the London clinic. To the public, it would later be described as routine follow-up care. Inside royal walls, there was no mistaking the urgency or the fear. This was a moment everyone had hoped would never return. Months earlier, detailed emergency plans had been quietly put in place, prepared for a possibility no one wanted to speak aloud. When Catherine suddenly became unwell, those plans snapped into action. Within minutes, specialists were alerted. Within an hour, she was moved to the same private hospital where she had undergone abdominal surgery the previous year. A place trusted for both medical excellence and absolute discretion. An entire floor was cleared, security intensified, and access narrowed to a small circle. Even among hospital staff, information was tightly guarded. William never left her side that first day. Those who saw him describe a man fighting to stay, upright under the pressure of a nightmare unfolding again. Phone calls were made in hushed corridors. Long silences followed difficult conversations. In one private space, away from cameras and protocol, he broke down completely. The carefully trained calm of a future king gave way to raw fear. The kind that comes from watching someone you love suffer while knowing you cannot fix it. Behind closed doors, an extraordinary medical effort was underway. Senior oncologists, surgeons, and consultants from multiple disciplines gathered at short notice. Some had waiting lists stretching months. Yet they came immediately. International. Experts were consulted as scans, tests, and images were reviewed again and again. The scale of expertise being assembled made one thing clear to those involved. This was serious. By January 3rd, the news no one wanted arrived. The cancer Catherine had battled had returned, not where it began, but in a new and more complex location. The treatments that had taken such a toll on her body had not been enough. The road ahead now included further surgery, stronger chemotherapy, then the possibility of radiation, all with uncertain outcomes. There were no easy choices, only difficult ones measured against time, strength, and hope. King Charles was informed that same day, already facing his own cancer diagnosis from 2024. He understood the gravity instantly. He cleared his schedule and went straight to the clinic. Witnesses later spoke of a rare moment between father and son, Charles holding William in a long embrace. The formality that usually defined their relationship replaced by shared understanding and quiet grief. In conference rooms away from public view, doctors laid out options that felt impossible to weigh. Aggressive treatment offered the best chance of stopping the disease, but carried harsh side effects and no guarantees. Gentler approaches might preserve Catherine's quality of life, but risked allowing the illness to spread. Looming over every discussion was a simple, painful truth. She was a 43-year-old mother of 3. desperate to be present for her children's lives. Despite the fear, Catherine remained involved in every decision. She asked questions, listened carefully, and insisted on understanding the risks. Those around her spoke of remarkable composure, but also of moments when her strength faltered. Conversations about George, Charlotte, and Louis were the hardest. The thought of missing milestones, of not being there, more painful than any medical procedure. As days passed, the strain on William became impossible to hide. He was overheard, speaking to family members, his voice breaking as he tried to explain the situation. He stood alone at hospital windows, tears visible. Unguarded, discussions about future royal duties felt meaningless to him, and patience for such conversations disappeared. By January 6th, Catherine had been in hospital for 5 days. Official statements remained brief, asking for privacy while confirming ongoing care. Outside the palace, speculation grew louder, fueled by silence and concern. Inside, decisions could no longer wait. Surgery dates were being set, treatment plans finalized, and William was forced to face a truth that no preparation could soften. Love, rank, and the best medicine in the world offer no certainty. Some battles, even within palace walls, are fought without guarantees. And when silence took over the palace, what hidden shifts were quietly reshaping life behind its walls? When duty paused and family took over, silence settled heavily over the palace long before the difficult convey. Normal school life was quietly suspended, replaced with private lessons at home, not for convenience, but for closeness. They needed their mother near, even if only for brief moments, and they needed protection from a world eager for headlines. In those fragile days, unexpected tenderness emerged. Queen Camilla, often viewed through the lens of duty rather than emotion, became a steady source of comfort. She read stories, painted pictures, and listened. King Charles visited whenever his strength allowed, offering reassurance shaped by his own experience with illness. These small acts, unseen by the public, became lifelines for the children. Attention soon turned to what the world would be told. Tradition favored restraint, but William pushed back. He wanted truth, not carefully softened language. If the public was to follow Catherine's journey, they deserved honesty within the limits of medical privacy. The era of vague reassurances, he argued, no longer served anyone. Charles supported him, signaling a quiet but meaningful shift in how the monarchy faced vulnerability. There were harder questions still about the future. Catherine's role was not symbolic. It was foundational. Plans crafted over years suddenly felt fragile, yet offers of support poured in from within the family. Anne, Edward, Sophie, all ready to carry more. Even across strained divides, gestures of reconciliation surfaced. Proof that crisis can mend what time and anger could not. Beneath strategy and planning lay a deeper truth. Catherine was the emotional heart of the family. She softened rigid traditions, bridged old wounds, and brought warmth where it was desperately needed. The thought of losing her felt like losing balance itself. As the meeting drew to a close, Charles spoke not as a king, but as a father and grandfather. Catherine, he said, had given the family and the nation something rare. Dignity paired with humanity now, as she fought for her life all they could. Offer in return was unity, hope, and the quiet belief that love might yet be stronger than fate. But when she arrived at the London clinic, what unexpected truths awaited in the place where time itself seemed to pause? Inside Catherine's quietest battle, the private floor of a London clinic has become a place where time moves differently, where nights stretch long and mornings arrive heavy with uncertainty. For weeks now, Catherine has lived within those softly furnished rooms designed to feel calm and ordinary. Even as machines hum beside her bed and specialists move in and out with careful precision, this is not a world meant for public eyes. It is a deeply personal space where strength is measured not in appearances but in endurance. Those allowed to care for her speak of a woman who remains remarkably composed. She listens closely as doctors explain each step, thanks every nurse by name, and meets pain with quiet dignity. Yet behind closed doors, especially when William is the only one beside her, that control fades. In those moments, fear speaks freely. She worries about time, about unfinished dreams, about 3 children who still need their mother in ways only she can give. At 43, the idea of mortality feels cry premature. Days earlier, after intense consultations, doctors agreed on a treatment plan that left little room for comfort. On January 9th, Catherine was taken into surgery to remove a newly discovered tumor. The operation stretched on for 7 exhausting hours while William waited in silent corridors, unable to eat, unable to rest, clinging to hope. Surgeons succeeded in removing everything visible, but the relief was short-lived. Tests revealed the cancer had traveled further than scans had shown, leaving behind microscopic threats impossible to fully eliminate with surgery alone. By January 14th, Catherine began a second, far harsher round of chemotherapy, the kind reserved for the most serious cases. The first infusion lasted 6 hours. William stayed beside her the entire time, holding her hand, whispering encouragement meant only for her. When the treatment ended, its brutal effects arrived swiftly. The sickness was violent and draining, exactly as the doctors had warned. Titles and protocol disappeared. What remained was a husband caring for his wife with raw devotion, steadying her through moments no public image could ever capture. Between treatments, the children are visited under careful supervision. George, Charlotte, and Louis bring pieces of home with them. Flowers from the garden at Adelaide Cottage, stories from lessons, laughter that briefly softens the room. A brightly colored poster filled with drawings and messages now hangs near Catherine's bed. She listens intently, smiles bravely, and asks questions, holding herself together until they leave. One visit, however, cut deeper than the rest. On January 16th, William played a video Louis had recorded, asking when his mother would come home and if she still loved him. Watching it broke her composure entirely. Even the most seasoned nurse present later admitted she had never witnessed grief so pure. As treatments continue, conversations between Catherine and William have shifted in ways neither ever imagined. They speak quietly about wishes and possibilities they hoped would never need words. She has expressed a desire to be at home surrounded by family if the road ahead turns darker. She has written letters for her children meant for milestones she desperately hopes to witness herself. At her request, William records videos of her sharing advice, love, and hopes for their futures. Each recording is an act of courage and heartbreak combined. Doctors remain cautiously hopeful. Catherine was healthy before this diagnosis and her body is fighting hard. The surgery removed what it could, and the chemotherapy aims to destroy what cannot be seen. Still, cancer offers no promises. Months of treatment lie ahead, each round carrying physical strain and emotional weight. In quieter moments, Catherine speaks openly of her fears, not only of dying, but of leaving William to carry both parenthood and destiny alone. Of how this journey may shape her children forever. William listens, comforts, and stands firm, even as those closest to them know he is holding himself together by sheer will. Could the Prince of Wales's rigid discipline be masking a deeper struggle? Even those closest to him barely notice. William's quiet battle behind palace walls. Duty has always shaped the Prince of Wales, carving discipline into his every movement and restraint into his voice. From childhood, William learned that emotion must bow to responsibility, that the crown demands steadiness even when the heart is breaking. For years, he carried that lesson well, building a reputation as a dependable future king and a fiercely protective husband and father. Yet nothing in his careful training prepared him for the private storm unleashed by Catherine's medical crisis. Behind the guarded gates of Kensington Palace and the quieter surroundings of Adelaide Cottage, those closest to William have watched a man quietly unravel, not through dramatic outbursts, but through small, troubling changes. Meetings slip his mind. Conversations fade moments after they end. During briefings, his gaze drifts, unfocused, as if his thoughts are elsewhere. The composure that once defined him now cracks under the weight of fear, exhaustion, and helpless love. One moment in mid-January inside Kensington Palace revealed just how fragile he had become. On January 12th, William arrived briefly to sign urgent documents. A young staff member, unaware of the depth of Catherine's condition, asked about a return to public duties. Years of contained emotion erupted into sharp anger, only to collapse moments later into tears. William apologized, admitting he was not coping, and walked away, leaving seasoned aides shaken by a sight they had never expected from the future king. Nights bring no relief. William stays at the hospital as late as 10 or 11 p.m., unwilling to leave Catherine's side. When he returns to Windsor, he checks on George, Charlotte, and Louis, trying to anchor himself in fatherhood before lying down in a bed that feels painfully incomplete. Sleep comes in fragments, interrupted by racing thoughts and constant phone checks. When rest finally arrives, it brings vivid nightmares that drain him by morning. And amid this, an unexpected source of strength has emerged through his bond with King Charles. Both men are fighting their own battles under cancer's shadow, and this shared vulnerability has drawn them closer. They speak daily, sometimes several times a day. Charles encourages William to express his fear and despair, and allows him full freedom to step back from royal duties if needed. Yet, guilt lingers. William believes he should be stronger, more stable, less of a burden to Catherine when she needs reassurance, not visible despair. Friends describe him as shattered, a word rarely linked to the man who once seemed unbreakable. Titles and privilege offer no protection when the person you love most is fighting for her life. The relentless weight of that reality leaves him with little energy for anything beyond survival. His children have become both refugee and reminder. William now spends more time with them than ever before, cooking simple meals, taking walks around the Windsor estate, playing games that briefly restore a sense of